Have you been thinking about optimizing your GPU lately? Well, if so, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to optimize the shit out of it. So sit down, strap in, let's go. Right guys, so to get us started, in the description of this video, I put a link to my Google Drive. You can just follow that link to my Google Drive. It's shared so you can get into it. I've got DDU, Intelligent Standby List Cleaner. I've got version 1.0.2.6, I just like it the most. I've got all the Visual C runtime packages. That's just always good practice to make sure that those are all updated. I have the best online driver currently, 537.58. So if you play predominantly online games, I recommend using this driver. You can just download it from here. And then if you play single player games mostly, I've also got driver 546.17. So that's the best driver for single players. I got DirectX web setup, so you can just update that again. And then yeah, you can just go ahead and download all these folders. Whilst you are downloading that, to those of you that are subscribed to my channel, please just make certain you have that notification bell set to all. Really will help me with the algorithm. While you're at it, smash the like button, hit up a comment, and as always, share the video. For those of you that aren't subscribed to the channel and you find this type of content helpful, please consider subscribing by the end of the video. This is the video that I'm actually updating at the moment, but I do have other optimization videos on my homepage. There's a full CPU optimization guide. Step 1 and 2 is how to unlock undervolting in laptops 10th generation and newer. And then there are various throttle stop as well as MSI Afterburner tutorials on my homepage. But that is for another day. So guys, once you have all that downloaded, just create a GPU optimization folder and you can put everything into the GPU optimization folder here. And then we're going to be ready to go to step number 1. Step number 1 is a quick step. So in your GPU optimization folder, all that we're going to do is we're going to update the Visual C runtimes. And this is up to date as of May 2023, as well as just run DirectX web setup just to make sure that it's up to date. So Visual C runtimes, it's these programs over here. It's all these packages here. So if you run an old game, if you run a new game, you're gonna have all the Visual Runtime Studios or packages that you need. So all you can do is, I've already installed this, but just open that, go to install all, and then just run as administrator. And then what that's going to do is just going to install a few. As mentioned, I've already got it installed, but I'm just running it just to show you what it's going to look like. Okay, so that's done. And then once you're done with that, delete Visual C runtimes because you already installed it. So I think this is going to cut out my connection, but run as administrator, run DirectX web setup as administrator, and then install the updates it wants to do, but make certain that you untick Bing Bar because you don't want Bing Bar to install. And then once you're done with that, that's going to bring us to step number 2. For step number 2, boot into safe mode, because what we're going to do now is use DDU to clean off the graphics driver that you currently have on your system completely. So once you boot it into safe mode, go to the GPU optimization folder on the desktop, just open DDU, run display driver uninstaller as administrator. So this is giving me this because I'm not in safe mode now, because I'm just showing you. Just go ahead and select GPU, and then just go to options, and then just make certain that this bottom box is ticked, so that when you go out or when you boot back into Windows doesn't automatically install some random driver. So you can install the exact driver that you want to. And once that box is ticked, just go ahead and select clean and restart. And now what's going to happen is Windows is completely going to remove the driver and GeForce Experience, etc. off your computer. And then once you're back in Windows, we're going to start with step number 3. For step number 3, we'll be installing the graphics driver. So if you play online multiplayer games, I highly recommend installing 537.58. It's got the best latency out of any of the drivers in quite some time. And then if you're like me, that plays mostly single player offline games, I highly recommend 546.17. So there are a whole bunch of different methods to install a graphics driver. If you play multiplayer, it might be worth your while installing with Nvme Clean Install. But if you're like me and you're playing predominantly single player offline games, just installing via the driver, and then either installing with GeForce Experience if you record, or installing without record gameplay, or installing without GeForce Experience if you do not record gameplay and create videos. So all you need to do, I can't do this now because it's going to cut out the recording, so just run as administrator, and then if you record gameplay and you create videos, install with GeForce Experience. If you, however, do not, just do a straight install, unselect HD audio, and then you don't need to do a clean install, because obviously what you've done is you've already used DDU to completely clean the drive off your system. So once you're done with that, I'm going to pick up from the GeForce Experience installation. Right, so if you're going to be installing the Nvidia driver with GeForce Experience, I recommend going to settings. And then obviously if you're going to be recording gameplay, leave the in-game overlay on. And then switch off battery boost, unselect GeForce driver update, unselect reward is available. And then what you want to do is go to your, open your in-game overlay. I don't like recording my sound via my gameplay. So I just switch the microphone off, and then important, just go to settings, go to highlights. This can actually choose some performance. So it's going to be on, just switch it off, and then it's going to be on 5, just drag it to 1. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it done for GeForce Experience. That's going to bring us to step number 4. Right guys, that's going to bring us to step number 4, and this is setting up your Nvidia control panel. So I've actually done a lot of videos on this recently. Those of you that watch the videos regularly probably would have seen that. But let's go through the settings again. So first and foremost, just go to desktop. I like to enable developer settings. And then I switch off show notification tray icon. You don't need to do it. I just prefer it that way. Adjust image settings. Most of my audience have got medium to low end hardware. So I suggest putting it on performance and then just hitting apply, because that's going to put everything in manage 3D settings to its lowest setting over here in terms of anisotropic filtering, anti-aliasing, etc. So first and foremost, just select high performance Nvidia processor. In 546.17 or since 546.01, CUDA sysmem fallback policy has been a setting available in the Nvidia control panel. I have done extensive testing on this. If you want the most stability and the best 1% lows and 0.1% lows, put it on prefer no sysmem fallback. If you have dynamic boost, obviously make sure that it is on. Low latency mode, guys. If you're on a desktop, I recommend if you're on a desktop and you play online multiplayer games, I suggest putting the setting on. There you got 3 options on a desktop. You got off, on, or ultra. Ultra is going to give you good latency, but at the cost of performance, whereas on is going to give you a nice balance between performance and latency. If you're on a laptop and you play online games, maybe try ultra. But for me, I play mostly single player games, so low latency mode I just leave off. However, for The Witcher 3, low latency mode for some reason needs to be set to ultra. So just go to program settings if you do have The Witcher 3, and then what you can do is low latency mode, just set it to ultra. Okay, so it's going to take us back to the rest of control panel. Global settings. Okay, so next, open GDDR compatibility. I'm not going to have this debate again. Best performance is on preferred performance, even though games generally aren't OpenGL GDDR. OpenGL rendering GPU, just select your GPU. Power management mode, another debate I'm not going to have again. Best performance is on prefer maximum performance, just is. Shader cache size set to unlimited. If you play open world games like myself, doesn't really affect performance, but it can help with, if you do play open world games. Texture filtering, negative load bias, just leave it on allow. Texture filtering quality, by default it's going to be on quality, but it doesn't really impact performance. Maybe a 1% low here, a 0.1% low here, but high quality just looks a lot nicer. Thread optimization, you get slightly better performance with it on. And that concludes the manage 3D settings. So then just go ahead and hit apply. Set physics configuration, just select your GPU. And then manage performance counters, just put on allow access to GPU performance counters to all users. And then hit apply and you're done with the Nvidia control panel. Right, for step number 5, go back to your GPU optimization folder, and we're going to be just making sure that your GPU is in MSI mode. So just go ahead and run as administrator. So guys, there are going to be a whole bunch of options here that are on high. What I recommend is just making certain that your Nvidia GeForce graphics card is in MSI mode, that you'd have a tick, and putting your GPU into high, as well as putting your UHD graphics, if you're on laptop, on high as well. Because obviously at the end of the day, your GPU is going to be running via your integrated graphics. So it's best to have your GPU and iGPU in high priority. Just hit apply, done. Right, for step number 6, go to your GPU optimization folder. And now what you're going to be doing is just setting Nvidia Profile Inspector to the best settings. So just go ahead and run as administrator. So this is basically just an extension of the Nvidia control panel, but there are a whole bunch of settings here that give you a little bit extra optimization above and beyond the options in the Nvidia control panel. I have done extensive testing. People might disagree with me, but I find that the only thing that actually makes a difference to performance is Nvidia predefined Ansel usage. So by default it's going to be on Ansel allowed. I've already set it to disallowed, but what you want to do here is just go Ansel allow and then select disallowed, apply, done. Right guys, this is a step only for the multiplayer online gamers between you. I wouldn't even recommend single player guys, worry about it. But if you do play multiplayer games, interrupt policy, just run as administrator. And then what you can do is find your graphics card. So for me, it's a GTX 1650. So if I complete this, it's going to cut out the recording. But what you're going to do now is you're going to set the mask or select your interrupt affinity policy. So if you're on a quad core, you want to make sure it's not on your first core and first thread. You want to make certain it's on your second core and second thread and third core and third thread. And the same principle follows for hexa-core or octa-core processors. So just go ahead and set mask, and then you select the corresponding numbers that makes certain that you don't select core 1 and thread 1. You can put it on any other core. It just helps a little bit with latency, but I'm not going to be able to complete that obviously. Right, for step number 8, what we're going to be doing is we're getting ready for MSI Afterburner. So what you want to do to be able to overclock your graphics card and undervolt your graphics card, you need to use GPU-Z to find out what your default clock is and your boost clock is. So just go ahead and install GPU-Z. I've already done it. So once you have GPU-Z installed, let me just open this up. So by default, it's going to be on your integrated graphics. Just go ahead and select your graphics card. And then just go ahead and just check for updates automatically. And then over here, what you're going to be looking for is default clock. So my default clock of my graphics card is 1545 megahertz. And then my boost clock is 1680 megahertz. And the reason we want to find this out is because we want to be overclocking our via MSI Afterburner, we want to overclock our boost clock by 100. So that's the boost clock, and then still boost 100 megahertz above that, as well as doing an undervolt. So that's the reason we're using Tech Power Up. So whatever your default clock is, and then the boost clock figure over here says that's what we're going to use MSI Afterburner to overclock our graphics card 100 megahertz above this. Right, for step number 9, go to your GPU optimization folder. We're going to be installing MSI Afterburner and Rivet Tuner statistics so that we can overclock, undervolt, as well as set up the benchmarking tools for when you play games. So just go ahead and run MSI Afterburner. Once MSI Afterburner is installed, it's going to give you a prompt to install Rivet Tuner statistics as well. Just go ahead and install that. Once that's installed, open up MSI Afterburner. Now I've set all my settings to default so I can show you. So before we go ahead and apply the overclock and the undervolt, just go into the settings cog over here. These first 4 options will be ticked. Just go ahead and tick all these other options. Make sure the ticks here, and then ticks next to start with Windows and start minimized. Check for available product updates. Just go ahead and select never, and then once it's done, hit apply, press OK. Now what we're going to be doing is overclocking and undervolting your card. So guys, remember in the previous step I asked you to use GPU-Z to find out what your default boost clock was, and then adding 100 megahertz above and beyond your boost clock, so that we're overclocking by 100 megahertz above your boost clock. So go into the curve editor. Oh wait, let me just reset this. So just go into the curve editor and then hold down shift and then drag this first node all the way to the bottom. So by default, if you got a gaming laptop or if you have a laptop or whatsoever, your graphics card is going to be having somewhere between 900 to 1000 millivolts by default. So what we want to do is we want to underclock the graphics card. So I think a good baseline would be 850. So that's a minimum 50 to 100 millivolt undervolt already. So now the number corresponding with 850 millivolts, drag that up to your boost clock plus 100 megahertz. So for me, my boost clock was 1680. So I'm going to drag it up to 1785. Okay, and then you can just move down with the cursor. Okay, so now what you do is press Ctrl and L, and then just move this window over here, press apply, and you're going to see it's going to put you at your boost clock plus 100 megahertz. So we've overclocked and we've undervolted the card. So now what we're going to do is save it to a profile, but we want to lock in that profile, so whenever Windows starts, it starts you with an undervolt and an overclock of your GPU, so you can just get gaming straight away. So just make certain that this button is blue, press it down, press save it to profile 1, lock it. But now what you want to do is you also want to overclock your GPU memory slightly. So this you're going to have to find out by trial and error. Go up in increments of 50 megahertz. Just put it up by 50, test out, see that all your demanding games are running nice and smoothly. For me, I know that my GPU, anything above and beyond 420 megahertz, actually my graphics card starts glitching a little bit. So I overclock my boost clock to 400 megahertz. Okay, so then just unlock this over here. So now we're going to be saving this with the overclock and the undervolt. So just go ahead and save that to profile 1 and then lock it again. So now every time you start your computer, your graphics card is going to have a memory overclock. It's going to also have a regular overclock and an undervolt. And just hit apply, and now you can see we've got the memory overclock, we've got the GPU overclock, as well as the undervolt over here. Right, and this is going to bring us to the benchmarking portion of MSI Afterburner. So just go to that little settings cog, and then monitoring, I'll just show you the basic principles as well as the options that I use. So if you want something displayed in your game, so that's the little yellow numbers when you're playing a game in the top left hand corner. What you're going to need to do is just drag all the options you want over here. So what I use is GPU1 core clock, GPU1 usage, GPU1 temperature, GPU1 memory clock, GPU1 memory usage, that's VRAM, GPU1 temperature, and GPU1 power and CPU power, that's wattage of my GPU and wattage of my CPU. And then I also record CPU clock, CPU usage, and CPU temperature, as well as RAM usage, and then frame rate average, frame rate 1% lows, frame rate 0.1% lows, as well as frame rates. So to get it to show in on-screen display, and it's going to apply for all these, so whatever you want displayed, you're going to have to select on it, so it's highlighted blue, select show on-screen display. So if I unselect that, there's no on-screen display, so it's not going to display when you play a game. So once you select that, it shows on-screen display. And then if you want, you can override the group name, so that all my GPU things show up as GTX 1650M, but you can play around with that yourself. And then guys, because I do a lot of benchmarking, I like a frame rate 1% low, frame rate 0.1% low, as well as average, but it's not going to automatically show up in MSI Afterburner or in game when you're playing game. There's little yellow numbers in the top left hand corner. What you're going to need to do is set up benchmark. So I use num plus, so that's a plus sign next to the number pad, and that's once I hit num plus, then my average FPS, my 1% lows and my 0.1% lows start displaying on screen, and then once I hit number pad 5, those numbers stop pressing. So just find out a nice little shortcut key for you, and that is pretty much MSI Afterburner. Right, for step number 10, just go to your GPU optimization folder. Now we're gonna, you can just double click on game DVR registry tweaks, just to show you what it is. It's nothing untoward. We're just gonna be disabling path throttling via Regedit, and then we're just gonna be setting game scheduling to all the best selections. So it's basically in high, value 27 for clock rate, blah, 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 blah. You can look it up. These are the best settings. And then disable menu show. We're just disabling menu show delay, or we're setting menu show delay to 0. So whereas Windows typically has a 400 millisecond animation to open things up, setting menu show delay to 0 is things are basically going to open up instantly. And it's not going to make your computer faster, it's just going to make it look faster. Yay. Right guys, that's going to bring us to step 11, and that is Windows settings. So just go to that little Windows icon over here, go to the cog, and now in gaming, we're just going to be adjusting the settings here, as well as a very important hardware acceleration step that I'm going to show you. Game bar, unless you use it, switch it off. Captures, nothing to do there. Game mode, make certain game mode is on, trust me, it's better. Graphic settings, make sure that hardware accelerated GPU scheduling is on. Doesn't matter if you're on high end, low end, whatever end, hardware accelerated GPU scheduling is better on. But if you have hardware accelerated GPU scheduling on in Windows settings, that means that it automatically applies it for apps across the system. And since about 6 months ago, hardware accelerated GPU scheduling actually conflicts with other apps that use hardware acceleration. So if hardware accelerated GPU scheduling is on here, which means basically it's Windows wide or computer wide, it needs to be set off in apps that do automatically do hardware acceleration. So that would be Discord. So what you want to do is go to user settings, go to advanced, and then just make sure hardware acceleration is switched off here, but else you're going to get freezing whenever you open up Discord. But hardware accelerated GPU scheduling is worth it because it gives you some extra stability when you play games. Then go to Steam, click on Steam over here, go to settings, go to interface, and then just the options over here. Enable GPU accelerated rendering in web views, switch that off. Enable hardware video decoding, switch that off. So then you're done with Steam. And then what you want to do is, if you use VLC, go to Tools, go to Preferences, Input and Codecs. This is going to be on automatic by default. Just go ahead and put it on Disable, because if you don't and you got hardware acceleration on in Windows settings, whenever you open up VLC, it's going to actually freeze your screen. Okay, and that's VLC done. Other place that you want to do it is in your browser, believe it or not. So if you're on Chrome, it's going to be similar to this. Just go to Windows settings, and then in Windows settings, find Advanced. And then in Advanced, look for use hardware acceleration when available, and switch it off. And that is, so basically, just to reiterate, you want hardware accelerated GPU scheduling on in Windows settings, because that does hardware acceleration computer wide. But then in the apps that use hardware acceleration, you want it off. So that's your browser, Discord, Steam, VLC. Done. Right, for step number 12, just go to your GPU optimization folder, and then just install WinError Tweaker. Once you got WinError Tweaker, we're gonna take ownership to the context menu. So now you're gonna be able to take ownership of programs via the context menu over here. And what we're going to be doing is be getting rid of Gamebarpresencewriter, because even though we switched off Gamebar in Windows settings, a Gamebarpresencewriter is a very stubborn little program. So when you run games, it's still going to run in the background. So now we're going to change the file name so Gamebarpresencewriter doesn't have the ability to run in the background. So just go ahead and open up WinError Tweaker once you have that installed, and then scroll down until you find context menu. And in context menu, look for option that says take ownership. Now just make certain that take ownership is ticked. And once that's done, you're done with an WinError Tweaker. Now what we're going to do is go into local disk, Windows, System 32. And from here, you can just type in Gamebar. So once you type in GAM, you get the Gamebarpresencewriter. So what we're going to do is, we don't want this program to be running automatically every time you open up a game, because it's still some stability, 1% lows, and even some average FPS. So just go ahead and select, right click, select take ownership, and then once it allows you to take ownership, now you own this. Now you can actually change the system protected file. So now all you want to do is just select it again. So we're not changing the whole name, we're just adding 3 numbers at the end. So you can just add on 1, 2, 3 or 3, 4, 5. My 2 button doesn't work sometimes, so I just change it to Gamebarpresencewriter 1, 2, 3 or 3, 4, 5. So now what you'll find is, whenever you start a game, Gamebarpresencewriter won't be automatically running in the background, because we've changed the exe name, so it can't automatically execute. And finally guys, that's going to bring us to step number 13. So go to your GPU optimization folder. If you're on Windows 11, congratulations, you're done with the video. Thank you so much for watching. If however you're on Windows 10, you're going to want to set up Intelligent Standby List Cleaner. This program is going to improve your 1% lows as well as your 0.1% lows. But guys, just to reiterate, this is for Windows 10. Windows 11, you definitely don't want to use Intelligent Standby List Cleaner. So what you want to do, if you're on Windows 10, just go ahead and cut this folder, go to your C drive, go to program x86. As you can see, I've already got it here, but now you want to paste Intelligent Standby List Cleaner into program files x86. And then once you've done that, just open this, double click on Intelligent Standby List Cleaner. So because I've already got it set up, it's opening like this for me, but for you, it's going to open up like this. Then let me just set everything to default. Okay, so what you want to do here is list size. You want it to be at least 1024. That's megabytes, but that's a gigabyte, because a gigabyte is 1024 megabytes. So the free memory is lower then. You want this to be the half amount of your RAM. So I've got 24 gigs of RAM, that's why I've got 12288. If you've got 8 gigs of RAM, you want to set this to 4096. If you've got 16 gigs of RAM, you want to set this to 8192. And then if you've got 24 gigs of RAM, you want to set this to 12288. If you've got 32 gigs of RAM, you want to set this to 16384. Because that 16 gigs is half of 32 obviously. So set this to 1024, half amount of your RAM. Start intelligent standby list cleaner minimized. Launch intelligent standby list cleaner on user logon. Enable custom timer resolution. Make certain that it's set to 0.50. And then once all those conditions are met, start. So now every time you start Windows, Intelligent Standby List Cleaner is going to open up automatically in the background. Guys, don't use it for Windows 11, but it's fantastic for Windows 10 because it not only does it clean out your standby list automatically, what it does in-game is and I've tested this tons of times, it improves your 1% lows and your 0.1% lows. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button. If you have any questions, please hit me up in the comment section. And as always guys, if you're still watching and you haven't subscribed as of yet, now's the time to do so. It's Sunday, have a good one. It's people like you. Cheers.